At some point or another, you have probably heard that being able to control your emotions is a sign of mental strength. Welcome to Momentum Live. I'm Brooke Scott. What I think is really interesting about emotions is in a book that I've been reading, and for those of you who have known me or know me or have had a conversation with me for more than 2 minutes, you realize I'm pretty much always reading something. Right now, I'm reading High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. I may have said this before, but it's worth saying again. I got about halfway through the book and actually stopped and started it over again because it was just that powerful, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss something. One of the things that he talked about in the book was the difference between emotions and feelings. So what I thought was so empowering about the definition of emotions is that emotions are physical and instinctual. These are, bodily reactions that can be measured by heart rate, by pupil dilation. It can be measured by like microfacial expressions. But again, this is an emotion is a physical response that you feel. So think about a situation where maybe you feel like you're threatened and you feel fear. That's an emotion. What a feeling is, and again, this is a whole lot of neuroscience, and I'm not a neuroscientist or a psychologist, but it's just something that I've interpreted from reading and I want to share with you guys. But a feeling actually is the mental association to an emotion. So a feeling is shaped by our experiences, by our memories, our interpretation of life, if you will. So, for example, you're in a threatening situation, you feel fear, your feeling is panic and to choose to run away. So I just thought that was a really interesting thing. So the feeling is a mental portrayal of the emotion. It's a byproduct of your brain perceiving an emotion and how it processes. So why is this important to you? Why is it important to high performance? The thing I love about it most is that high performers define the feeling they want to have in a situation regardless of the emotion. So let's think about something in maybe a business setting. You're attending a meeting, the conversation gets a little heated, maybe a little frustrated, and your immediate emotion is a bit of panic or maybe discomfort because people may be yelling, people may be using confrontational language, and your immediate emotion is just say panic or fear. That feeling you have a choice to interpret. I remember distinctly being, how do I explain that? Being in a room and being with like my dad, for example. And when my dad would raise his voice, and even in a professional setting, I just remember feeling that panic as a child, like I had done something wrong. Does that make sense? Sorry, I was struggling with how to explain that. But what's interesting now is that, let's go back to that same meeting. Conversation starts to escalate, things get a little frustrated or contentious, and my immediate emotion is a little bit panic, but now the interpretation of my feeling is to remain calm, take a deep breath, keep a clear head, and see how I can resolve the situation. Again, one of the things that's so powerful is that high performers decide how they want to feel going into a situation and how they want to feel when they leave a situation. So in the book, he talks about an Olympic sprinter, and he gets into the process of talking about being in the zone and how being in the zone is a choice that high performers make. It is a choice that people decide they want to be mentally present. They want to be intentionally focused on what they're doing, regardless of standing on that starting at that starting point, that starting block, and getting ready. And of course, his emotion is excitement and adrenaline surging through his body. His interpretation mentally is being in control, being intentional, being focused, paying attention to his body and all the elements. So I just thought that was really interesting. Another part of this book continues to go on and talks about being aware of the feeling that you want to bring to a particular meeting or conversation or phone call or event. So taking the time before you transition from one activity to another activity, to ask yourself, what feeling do I want to bring to this conversation, this person, this meeting, this lunch, this appointment, this phone call? And personally, I have found that to be incredibly powerful, because you have the feeling of fatigue and overwhelm that just comes from a daily, grind of what you're doing, or, being worked, or an endless to-do list, whatever it is. And by setting that intention and defining the feeling that I want to be joyful and positive and present in every engagement, has made a huge difference in my interactions with people. So back to the beginning, understand just very briefly, emotions are your physical response, and your feelings are the mental interpretation of those. Those who are in control of their feelings are potentially mentally stronger. I hope you guys found this valuable. Have a great Monday and a great week, and I'll see y'all next week.